Casper is waking up. And I can't say I told you so, but hypothetically I told you so, even though nothing I say is financial advice nor a guarantee. 25 cents, that's still my price target for Casper during this bull run. It's kind of crazy to think about how 25 cents actually, as of right now, is just around 13x away. Like, that's kind of crazy. Again, it's not even that far away at this point. Back then, when the price of Casper was kind of caca, that was around a 30x. Now, just a 13x. Kind of crazy to think about. So when it comes to Casper, I get it, right? In the past, a lot of people were panicking because Casper Labs, they were banded to approve AI and then they moved on to Hedera. I totally understand that. However, what really surprised me when that whole thing happened was that for the people that were in the know, that actually understood Casper at its core, they were even panicking in some cases. And I was kind of shocked by that because if you think about it, Casper Labs, it's a totally separate entity to the Casper network. So I've never really understood for the people who actually were in the know. Now, generally speaking, of course, I get why, let's say the general person who doesn't know about Casper that much, maybe they panic sold because they thought that, oh, Casper Labs is like, part of the Casper network, like in a sense, like they're a combined entity. And then they thought that, oh, Casper is going to migrate to HBAR, whatever like that in terms of the token. But again, that wasn't the case. So I understood that for the general, public in a sense. But then for those who were in the know, I was so surprised. And I've been saying this whole time that, Casper, I thought was going to make a resurgence. Now, was I saying it's going to be the best performing thing of all time during a fully fledged bull run? No. But then still, I thought that it was going to make a resurgence because do you remember in my previous videos, like I talked about, hey, if Luna Classic can pump, if something like Klima DAO can find a bottom, if something like Litecoin can even pump back in 2021, Casper can at least do okay. You know what I mean? And you can actually check the comments on those previous videos. Everyone was saying, oh, dude, you're believing in Casper. This is caca, all this type of stuff. Now, very recent comments on those videos are like, whoa, you made a good call. This aged well, all this type of stuff. Now, when it comes to Casper, there's still ways to prove itself. I understand that. And again, after Casper reached the price of above 2 cents, nearly 3 cents, actually, a lot of people did start selling off. But in my opinion, things were just getting started. Bitcoin hasn't even reached the price of $100,000 yet. Imagine once Bitcoin does that, let's say even goes beyond 250,000. The altcoin season that could follow could be, for a lack of a better word, crazy. And in a good way, of course. I'm not talking about like, in a bad way. Because if you think about it, a high tide raises all ships. Once that FOMO buying pressure and buying volume is at an all-time high, usually things just pump. Like people just don't really care in some cases. Think about back in 2021. There were many NFT projects, DeFi projects, metaverse projects that never launched anything. And many of them still haven't really done much up until right now. But still back then, we saw their native token just absolutely skyrocket. Why was that? It's because sometimes people just care about the anticipation. They sometimes don't really care about the fundamentals. And I've been saying this whole time as well. Once Casper announces Casper 2.0, let's say they quote unquote upgrade to that, right? Also on top of that, as Casper, let's say, gets listed in more exchanges, this could be such a momentum shift. Seeing Casper at the price of 5 cents, 10 cents, that really wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, especially again, if the sentiment keeps getting better, which all signs are indicating, by the way, that, that could very well be the case. Now, not to mention, why do I think that the bull run is far from over? Because we haven't seen, on top of Bitcoin reaching, not the price of $100,000 yet, but also, for instance, some altcoins, for instance, like Ethereum. Ethereum hasn't, reached the price of $10,000 yet. Cardano's native token called ADA hasn't broken a new all-time high. And we also haven't seen something like Litecoin have a massive resurgence and break an all-time high. We haven't seen that yet, hypothetically, right? So in my opinion, once we see something like that, I think at that point, I'll know that the bull run is in fifth gear. So I think that judging Casper as of right now, this could very well just be a small taste of what's to come in the future, because I think that, man, when it comes to this bull run, it could be so special. I mean, when people underestimate this bull run, I just don't get it. Now, this is not financial advice. That's just the way I view it, because there's over 600 million crypto owners, according to Crypto.com research. I get how that's not even 10% of the world's population, so some people may think it's bad, but if you actually think about it, this is pretty much double the amount that we saw when compared to the peak of the 2021 bull run. So I think that when it comes to this bull run, it could be so special, but it's just a waiting game. I get it. A lot of people, they're bored, all this type of stuff, and I've been waiting when it comes to Casper ever since 2021. So can you imagine the dedication, the belief, the patience, right? It's been a journey, but you know what? I feel like it's a marathon, and I feel like it's almost over in terms of the acquisition phase. So it is what it is. I'm going to still stay patient because I've been through 2022, right? The FTX crash, all that type of nonsense. Terra Luna, all that type of craziness, right? We all saw what happened with Celsius, Alameda Research, of course, someone in a sense associated with FTX. We all saw that. And I saw that as well, right? I also saw people fudding about, USDT. They said, oh, wow, it's going to crash all this, which was kind of crazy to think about, by the way. But, that was the sentiment back then. If I've been through all of that, is waiting, let's say, around 6 months to a year from right now so bad? I just don't think so. Even historically speaking, we know that altcoins could very well peak as a worst case scenario around October of next year. That's still plenty of time, by the way. Now, granted, things could happen sooner, but why do I say that date, right? October of 2025? Because historically speaking, altcoins, they've been known to peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event as a worst case scenario. Now, the last Bitcoin halving event happened back in April, which is why I mentioned, again, October of 2025. Now, history doesn't always repeat itself. I understand that. However, it tends to rhyme. But even besides that, things could happen sooner. We just don't know. But even besides that point, I think that the journey when it comes to Casper is far from over. Again, it's been a wild journey, but I think that hypothetically around 6 months to a year from right now, it could very well hypothetically feel very rewarding, at least for me. Now, I can't tell anyone to follow what I'm doing, but this is just the way I take a look at it. Not to mention, when you take a look at Casper, what I just don't get is why people keep thinking that it's a bad layer one blockchain just because the price not too long ago, had a dip. That dip wasn't because Casper was fundamentally bad. That was because a lot of people panic sold because of the Casper Labs, becoming Proof AI and moving to Hedera news, right? It wasn't because something fundamentally bad happened to the Casper network. Now, slightly before that, of course, there was a little bit of a dip as well because a lot of people were panicking because there was like something, allegedly like some sort of breach on the network, but then it got fixed very quickly. So I never understood the panic when it comes to that in a grand sense, because for the people, again, who were in the know, they knew that the Casper network was very secure. So again, it was panic, but then you combine that as well with the crypto space not doing well. And then also Casper Labs becoming Proof AI and moving on to Hedera. That just created a perfect storm where the price of Casper just went caca. But I know that feeling before. I know what it felt like when things drop like 90%, 90 plus percent, I should say, because I've been through Floki. Now, Floki's doing very well as of right now, but back in 2021, when I acquired Floki, I was like, oh man, this is amazing. Then what happened soon after that? The price dropped over 90%. And I was like, oh man. Then you combine that as well with a Terra Luna crash where I lost big on Terra Luna, not to mention, the FTX nonsense, right? That all created a perfect storm where my portfolio, especially when it came to Floki, looked so caca. I was like, oh man, I was starting to regret that, right? But then now I don't regret it, of course. But when it comes to Casper, when the price dropped, I get it. It wasn't a good feeling, but I knew, I was like, oh, this is a very similar feeling to what I experienced when it comes to Floki. And experience is a good teacher. At least that's the way I take a look at it. So I learned from that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to give up. I even made a video explaining why I'm still buying Casper. How I was still staying with my strategy, dollar cost averaging. I wasn't changing that. And again, it proved to be correct, at least as of right now. However, hypothetically, around 6 months to a year from right now, I would like it to be better, but only time will tell. But it's not like 25 cents is even that crazy anyways. Considering current circulating supply, market cap would only be around $3 billion. That's so crazy. Think about this, right? Dogecoin reached over 80 billion. BNB reached over 100 billion. Ethereum reached over 550 billion. A $3 billion market cap? I mean, caralho. Porra, it doesn't seem too ridiculous. At least that's the way I view it, which is why I'm still standing by that. Hypothetically, during this bull run, I think it could be very special, but only time will tell. But again, I'm going to stick with my strategy. I'm not going to change that. I'm dollar cost averaging, acquiring, holding, and just waiting. Am I saying that Casper is going to have a straight shot all the way to 25 cents? No, because I think that there's going to probably be pullbacks along the way, which we're kind of seeing as of right now. But again, it's only natural. But even besides that, again, reaching that price, let's say around 6 months to a year from right now, I just don't see why not, hypothetically speaking, but only time will tell. And unlike a lot of other people out there, they make videos on Casper. I'm not spreading FUD for no reason. I talked about how I felt about, when Casper was dumping in terms of price. I talked about what was actually going on. Others were saying, yeah, they're going to do this, do that. But for me, I've always believed in it. So again, 25 cents, that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever during this bull run. I'm still staking Casper. I haven't sold any Casper. Every single Casper I acquired ever since 2021, I've still been holding. I've still been staking. So I'm going to stick with that. And only time will tell, but hopefully it is something amazing. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's only the captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.